friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Tori. Today we're going to do a book haul, and this is going to be a pretty special book haul because after this book haul, things might be changing a little bit around here. Because as you guys know, I've been doing a Read Your Shelves challenge for the last couple of years, and it's been kind of slowly getting better as I get further into the challenge. But I'm doing something a little bit more drastic going forward, and I'm working on a project behind the scenes that is going to not dictate, but kind of guide my TBR a little bit better, and I'm going to be putting in a system of rewards for myself so that I can only purchase new books when I have finished a number of others. I have a final book haul here for you guys to show you what I have purchased in the last few months, and I'm very excited about all of these books. Most of them are authors that I have already read or have special stories attached to them, so I'm super excited to show you what I got. Let's start with a special edition, shall we? So for you guys who've been around the channel, you know that The Mortal Techniques by Rob J. Hayes is one of my favorite indie series ever. I love the first book, Never Die, and I own the regular paperback edition and also the really beautiful broken binding edition of the book. I did not know, because I live under a rock apparently, that there was another special edition recently done for Never Die by a subscription box called Paper and Wick. Now, I am not subscribed to Paper and Wick right now, but I had seen somebody else talk about this edition of Never Die, and as soon as I saw it, I knew it was something that I wanted to have on my shelf because I absolutely love it. And this is what it looks like. This has a absolutely stunning cover by Jeff Brown, who is an absolute giant in the fantasy community in terms of illustrations and covers right now. And as you can see, this cover is no different. It is absolutely beautiful, and it has sprayed edges that have kind of a continuation of the city on the cover. And my favorite part is when you open up the book, the naked hardcover has gold embossed designs on it and a quote on the back, and there's an inside illustration on the end papers that I absolutely loved. Absolutely loved this, and it is signed by the author himself, Rob J. Hayes. I don't typically buy special editions of books that I haven't read, sometimes, but not very often. And so I really get excited when there's a book that I already love that has a beautiful special edition like this made of it. And I already have one, why not have a second one, especially when it looks like this. So this is one of my most exciting additions to my bookshelves, and I'm super excited to get it on the shelf next to the Broken Binding edition. Next up, I found a great deal on Pango Books for a couple of Adrian Tchaikovsky novels. This one is The Doors of Eden. So this one, from what I understand, kind of blurs within the lines between science fiction and thriller, where we have a friend who has been missing for a very long time and then comes back. I actually don't know that much about it, but I was purchasing from the seller and they had two of the Adrian Tchaikovsky novels, and I figure I might as well get both of them at the same time because he is an author that I know I want to read more of. And the reason I purchased from that seller specifically was to get Eyes of the Void, which is the Final Architecture series #2. The first one is Shards of Earth, which I'm hoping to read this year, and I have been told by so many people that that is a science fiction that they think I'm going to love. Apparently there is a fantastic motley crew in this series. I know very little about it other than that, but it doesn't take more than that to sell it to me, to be honest, because everybody knows I love a motley crew, and I have also been wanting to dig into some good science fiction this year, and I'm really hoping that this trilogy will do it for me. Next up, from the same seller, I purchased a classic called The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. I have read Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and I have also read Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte, which was one of my favorite classics classics, and it didn't feel fair to leave Anne out. And Tenant of Wildfell Hall is one that just kind of piqued my interest in terms of classics, and it's not super long, and I'm curious to compare the three of the Bronte sisters together as writers and to see what their different styles were. So I grabbed a copy of this, and one of the things I thought was really cool about it is that this book actually has some underlines and notes from the previous owner, which I always like to see as somebody who enjoys annotating, so I'm looking forward to reading that at some point. The last book I purchased from the same seller is China Dolls by Lisa C. This is another one of her historical fiction novels. This one is not as beloved by a lot of people as her other books, so I don't know how I'm gonna land with it. I don't know if it's going to be as thrilling of a read for me as her other books have been. I still highly recommend for anybody that wants to start with Lisa C. To go with The Tea Girl of Hummingbird Lane or The Island of the Sea Women, which are both absolutely knockout 5-star historical fiction reads. She does an amazing job with female relationships, mother-daughter, sister-sister, friend-and-friend, in her books, and always sets them in a part of Asian history that is lesser known and just really, really riveting and educational to read about. So we'll see what China Dolls looks like. I think this one is set more in the United States. Yep, it's a San Francisco setting during the 1940s, so we will see what that looks like. I don't know what to expect, so we'll see how I like it compared to the other books that I have of hers. Next up, this one's kind of a fun story for you guys. So this is Tess of D'Urbervilles, which is one that I just purchased recently on a trip to Barnes & Noble with my husband. During college, I was the type of student that tried to go above and beyond as much as I could, especially when it came to reading. I was an English major, so I was reading a ton of books for my chosen major, and Tess of D'Urbervilles was a book that it's one of my only regrets that I still think about from college. Was I was taking an intro to fiction class, and our professor gave us a list of books that we could choose from and write an essay about. And I, not having any clue what it was about or how long it was, chose Tess of D'Urbervilles. And when I got the book and realized how big it was and how much work it was going to be to read it alongside of all of the other things that I was reading and working on for my English major, my history classes, my theater classes, I felt incredibly overwhelmed, and I decided that I was going to skimp on the work for that particular project. So I ended up reading about a third, maybe. I don't even know if I read that much, skimming the rest, and then just pulling an essay out of thin air. And, you know, I was pretty good at BSing my way through essays and sounding really like I knew what the professors wanted, right? But this particular professor I really, really loved, and I'm even hoping to maybe interview him on my channel later this year, and I'm going to share this story with him probably then too. But I never actually finished reading the book. And I'm giving myself a lot of grace from that time period because college was a lot, especially as an English major and a theater minor. The amount of things I was reading was incredibly it was a stack, right? But I have always regretted not actually finishing Tess of D'Urbervilles and wanting to be able to kind of go back now into my college era, finish the book, and actually have thoughts on the full story. So I bought Tess of D'Urbervilles, finally, now that it's been, you know, probably 14 years since that happened. 15 years, actually, probably more than that. Since that happened, we're going to go back and we're going to actually finish Tess of D'Urbervilles so I can tell my professor I did actually read the book. Next up, I grabbed The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro, who I have not yet read, but he is one of my priority authors for 2025. I have his book Never Let Me Go, which is probably going to be my first read of his, but I read the back of this in Barnes & Noble when we went today, and it just really the idea of telling a story from the protagonist's point of view as a butler who's kind of reaching the end of an era when it comes to his occupation and his reflections on his life of service and the family that he has served all of that time just really sounded interesting to me. It's not very long. I have heard amazing things about Ishiguro, and I'm really looking forward to reading this and Never Let Me Go, and hopefully some of his other works if I enjoy those too. But this one just really, the back synopsis, it's not very long, and I read it and I was like, that sounds like a book I need to read. Next, late, but at least it got here. I ordered Sunrise on the Reaping, which is the newest Hunger Games novel by Suzanne Collins. And this one, if you saw my video about this, this has been one of my top most anticipated releases of 2025 because back in college I was a huge fan of the Hunger Games books and absolutely loved them. And Haymitch Abernathy, who's the mentor character, was my favorite in the books. I loved his character, and we got bits and pieces of his backstory and a little bit about the fact that his, how his games had gone, but not enough. It was always just kind of hinted at, and it was never, I wanted more. I always said that if we got another Hunger Games novel, I really wanted it to be about Haymitch. And then The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes came out, which I'm currently reading. I have thoughts. However, I was really disappointed about that because I really wanted a Haymitch novel, and I was like, well, fine, it's fine. Like, we'll probably never get it. Here it is. I can't believe this book actually exists. It makes me really excited. I will probably be reading this very, very shortly because I need to know. I need to know what happens. I need all of the Haymitch backstory that hopefully this book contains. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to read this and hopefully get a big jump into the nostalgia bath that is the Hunger Games universe and get back with my favorite character. It's gonna be super, super fun, and I'm looking forward to checking it out now that it's finally here. Next up is a YA fantasy series that I don't know a lot about, actually, that was gifted to me by my friend Nico from Nico's Book Reviews. Please go check out his channel. He is awesome and has amazing book recommendations. And he had decided that he was never gonna read these books and asked me if I was interested in them. And I was like, sure, why not? So we have An Illusion of Thieves, a Summoning of Demons, and a Conjuring of Assassins. And I know nothing. I literally know nothing about this trilogy, and I want to keep it that way. Because whenever I can go into a series blind, I prefer to do that, and I haven't even looked up the synopsis for these, you guys. So all I know is that it's YA fantasy, and there are thieves and demons and assassins apparently in it. So we will see how I feel about that. But thank you again to Nico for sending me those, and I look forward to checking out some of Kate Glass's work. Next up is a book that kind of, again, was one that I saw the synopsis and it just immediately grabbed me. I've been leaning toward a little bit of literary fiction this year, which I'm looking forward to getting in amongst the fantasy reads, and that was The Snow Child by Eowyn Ivey. This one is about a homestead in the 1920s Alaska, and it's I'm expecting something very heartrending and very brutal and harsh with the environment and the story of a family. I'm expecting a lot of like human struggle and relationship struggle, but also some of that kind of wild whimsy and wholesomeness, maybe? I don't know. So there's a young girl who has kind of disappeared and befriended animals in the woods, and I don't know, it just sounded really engaging and interesting, and I'm really looking forward to checking it out. Next up, I purchased a physical version of a digital read that I had at the end of last year, which is the novella Your Blood and Bones by J. Patricia Anderson. This is a fantasy horror novella about two young people who have a condition that is basically slowly turning them into monsters. They are ostracized from their village and have to flee across the water to a different place to try to survive and to try to figure out an answer of what's happening to them and what they can do about it. And I really enjoyed it. This was a solid 4-star novella for me. The horror elements were just enough. They were like right on that edge for me of a line of what I typically will stop at in terms of the level of horror that I like in my books. But I really liked it. I thought it was really solid, and I wanted to have a physical copy of it. Okay, you guys, next up is a pair of books that you probably won't be able to find anywhere, which is really weird. And there's a whole thing with this that I might even do a full like video on at some point. So you guys know that I have been really interested in both translated works from different Asian authors and also books that are set in or deal with Joseon and Goryeo era Korea. I love Korean history and I love historical K-dramas, and so that era is always very interesting to me, and I love when I find books that are written in that time period. And I found an author named Lee Evie who wrote A Song for Lonely Wolves and Promise Season. These are the last two editions or versions of these books that were available on Amazon or eBay or anywhere else. I could not find these books anywhere else. I think these were published in like 2021 and 2022, somewhere around there. I found one podcast audio interview with the author, and her socials are gone. Her website is gone, her Instagram is gone, like there is nowhere. This author just kind of disappeared, and her books are just gone. Like you can't order them on Amazon anymore. And I was it was so mind-blowing to me. I was like, how did this author just disappear? What happened? And so I quickly grabbed the last two books that were available on Amazon, and I am so excited to read these, and I really hope that somehow I can figure out how to track down this author, if she's still writing, if she's still around, if she's changed to a different pen name, if something happened. I don't know. I even reached out to the person who interviewed her and asked if she knew what had happened, and she didn't have any idea. So, I mean, it was a very strange situation, but I'm really excited to read these books. And maybe if I read them and put out reviews and talk about them, anyway, so just interesting. It was an interesting situation, and I'd never like come across that before, where the author just kind of vanished into thin air. But these are both about Joseon era Korea, so you're looking at like the 1500s, early 1600s, and their stories about women in that time, and I think they're kind of a mystery historical fiction, which I'm very excited about. So we'll see how they are. I'm really excited I was able to snag the last couple copies of these, and I feel really bad because if I love them, it's going to be really hard to recommend them to people because getting copies of them is going to be really difficult. And speaking of translated literature, I ordered all 4 of Keigo Higashino's Detective Kaga books. So I read Malice last month in February and really enjoyed it. Definitely go back and watch my February wrap up to hear more of my thoughts about this book. I think it's really interesting and I had a good time with it. It's not your traditional mystery thriller. It's not the same kind of tension that we're used to, I think, from those kind of stories, but it's a whodunit that I found to be a really interesting just character exploration. And so after enjoying that so much, and being in my murder mystery thriller era, I ordered the other 3 in the Detective Kaga series. Higashino has written quite a few mystery thriller books, and I'm going to try this series first just to see how I feel about it, and if I really like the rest of these, I'm probably going to order more of his other books as well. But I was able to get Malice, so I have a physical copy of it now. I got Newcomer, and I got A Death in Tokyo, and the final Curtain. So these books actually, this looks like I have 1 through 4, but doing a little bit of sleuthing on Goodreads, apparently the Detective Kaga series is longer, I think, than 4 books, and these are just the only 4 that have been translated into English so far. So I'm very curious to see if more of them start coming out in the next few years. That would be awesome. If more of them get translated, I will probably add them to my shelves as well. And last but certainly not least, I picked up a book that the Discord over from Library of Alexandria is going to be reading in April, and it's one that I've had on my shelves in mass market paperback for a while. I have started getting away from mass market paperbacks because they are really hard for me to read. I have a little bit of a hard time with my thumb joints, and so holding open mass market paperbacks is a little bit harder for me now. So I swapped out my mass market paperback with the hardcover of Dreaming the Eagle, which is Boudica the Warrior Queen, book 1 by Amanda Scott. This is the story of a Celtic warrior queen who defended her people against the invasion of the Romans. And I have heard amazing things, and I'm really looking forward to buddy reading this with some of my friends from the Library of Alexandria Discord. And it should be a good book. And as you guys know, I love some historical fiction, and I've heard really good things. So I'm looking forward to this. I don't know as much about that era in history as I would like to, so I think this will be a good intro. All right, guys, that is everything that I've purchased in the last couple of months. And like I said at the beginning of the video, there is probably going to be a shakeup in how books are coming into my house from now on, where I'm going to do it on a reward system based on how many other books I am reading, and more about that to come. But I'm really excited about these books. I'm really excited to really commit to the Read Your Shelves challenge more this year, and start reading some of these books on my shelves, because as you've probably seen around BookTube, there are so many videos about people talking about the culture of buying books. And I don't necessarily get as negative about that as a lot of people do, because I do think that having a collection of books and having a physical library in your home is not necessarily something to be negative about. But I do think that it can, there's a lot of impulse buys, right? I'm guilty of it. I know a lot of us are. Not that that's also always a bad thing, of course, but I have more books than I know what to do with. And when I cataloged my entire library and did the graph to show me what I'm looking at in terms of what I've read versus not read, I'm sitting at about 35% read out of the books that I have on my shelves. And part of that's a little deceptive because I don't keep books that I read and don't like, that I give like a 3-star or less. So I have a lot of books that I've read in the last couple of years that I have not kept that would definitely raise that percentage of read books back up higher. But it is just something that I would like to work on pretty seriously for the next couple of years and focus on all these amazing books that I have on my shelves, because I am so excited to read them all. And I think switching my book buying to a more reward system is going to be a good fit for me personally. But I hope you've enjoyed this book haul. Let me know down in the comments below if you have purchased any books or been gifted any books or come across any books recently that you're really excited about. And I hope that you are all having a fantastic week reading some 5-star reads, and I will see you in the next video.